Hello. So it's just come to light that John MacArthur, well-known preacher, evangelist and author, has passed away at the age of 86. His health took a turn for the worse a few months ago, and it was widely expected by most of his close family and friends that he wouldn't live beyond the year. However, it's a shock to the general public because I didn't even know he was ill, and when it come through on my feed yesterday, I immediately sunk into prayer, and I just hope that he's now resting in God's arms. I mean, he's certainly a great servant of the Lord. I think it really, matters what theological persuasion you come from. I think we can all respect the fact that his biblical commentaries are almost second to none. His writings are very, very good, and interestingly, they don't really show off a lot of his theology. I think his writings are just are intimate, and they help you understand the Bible. And I think that's what Bible commentaries are meant to do. They're not meant to be too complex. I think they're meant to be as simple as possible, and I think MacArthur was very good at that. He was very good at just extracting the main principles and applying them. And I think he was good friends with R.C. Sproul. They used to play golf together. Another great writer who we lost a few years ago. They did actually have a debate once on paedo-baptism, and people would often joke and say, well, the two men believe pretty much the same thing, and that's the only thing that separates them. So it's interesting. But yeah, I mean, I've seen a lot of his sermons over the years, and I think he's pretty good. I don't think there's going to be many people that can follow his act, in the sense of strong leadership. The man, you got to give him credit where it's due. He's very consistent. I mean, a lot of people thought he was very harsh, especially on Catholics, but he kept that level of consistency all the way through. He never got softer with it. He was stern on what he believed, and I think you have to sometimes respect that, because even people on the other end of the scale, like let's say these sort of rad-trad Catholics, they're not going to back down either. I think that's what you do. If you've got conviction in what you believe, then you are going to sort of take that to the end of the earth, and there's going to be no compromising. But MacArthur is what you would call a Reformed Baptist, and I've had my criticisms over the years with that. I did a video 3 or 4 months ago on the half-truths of Calvinism, because I think it is actually very misunderstood. When you look at the work of Augustine in the 4th century, who was a church father, a Catholic church father, may I add, his views on salvation weren't far off the views of Calvinists. I mean, what do you think inspired Calvin to write what he did? So I think we have to remember that, and we have to remember that there's overlaps and there's nuances. And I was saying to my good friend the other day on a phone call, even when you look at Wesleyanism or Arminianism, they're not meant to be polar opposites of Calvinism. They're simply meant to be a different, looking at it almost like from a different angle. Even on subjects like unconditional election or perseverance of saints. So yeah, I mean, I think on a whole he was a good preacher, although harsh. I guess he had a level of diplomacy. I think I've seen a lot of memes on Facebook, and I think the big argument is when he's up there now, is he going to see the Pope? Is he going to see people that he really had no expectation to see up there? Because he wasn't ecumenical in the slightest. I'm pretty sure if you asked him point blank, does a Catholic have salvation, I think he'd say a resounding no. no matter how nice the Catholic is, and no matter how many old ladies he helps walk across the street, and how many confessions he does, and he seemed, I think, the worship of idols. Even though, of course, a Catholic wouldn't say they worship idols, and I don't think they necessarily worship idols, but MacArthur felt that they did, and that he felt that it was rooted in paganism, and he felt that the whole Mary veneration was over the top, and he conflated it with paganism. There's no question there. That's why I'm saying he was harsh on Catholics. He didn't just say, oh, they got, slightly miscued theology, and he was like, no, they're consciously worshipping another deity in the sense of Mary, which is not many European theologians would say that. But Calvin was brash. It was a brash American. It's the culture over there. They don't hold back. I mean, we have it a little bit of that in Northern Ireland and Scotland. There's a real sort of there's a real zeal for the truth, and they don't budge. I think the culture in England is very much like, respect all other religions and try and reach a compromise. It's not quite that way in other cultures, I don't think, and I think MacArthur's an example of that, really. But he's going to be sorely missed. His expositions and sermons, they're all going to be online. They're never going to go. We're always going to be able to access him in one way or another, and he's always going to be in our thoughts. So although he's passed to the other side, his work on earth will simmer. It will simmer till the very end, because I'm telling you now, he is probably on a scale of Pope-like in the Protestant world, in the sense of influence. Not obviously not status or pedigree, because we know that the Catholics view the Pope as the vicar of Christ, but on actual influence and being well known, he is that leadership figure in the Protestant world, even among Anglicans and Lutherans, and not just Baptists. He was a big player. And then if you were to run a list, top 5 Protestant evangelists, he'd be on there. There's no question there. Absolutely no question. You'd probably put him, Billy Graham, R.C. Sproul, Voodoo Bookham, and let's put one more. And by the way, I'm not listing any of the televangelists because they're not respected in scholarship. I'm actually talking about people that are actually respected in scholarship. And I would say, let's go for one more. I would probably say, let's pick an Anglican. Let's say, I don't know, Rowan Williams. There we are. There's your top 5. Obviously 3 of those 5 have now died, so they will have to be replaced, but you do have up and coming people that have big influence as well, so we just have to, I think Jimmy Eze in Africa is when he's filling up stadiums with his prophetic ministry. I think you'd have to put him up there now, and I can see in the horizon some possibly, potentially, Rick Warren from the Saddleback Church. I can see him getting there. If not him, someone in his part of his Saddleback Church. But it's sad. It's sad. I think we just have to pray for the family, really. But rest assured, John MacArthur, I think, has definitely made it. I think God will be very pleased with his work, because the thing is, whether you think he's wrong or not, he was very good at sharing the gospel, and he certainly wasn't lukewarm, was he? And he strongly believed what he believed, and if he was misled, then that would have been by the devil, not the Holy Spirit. And I think God will show mercy on him. If he was overly harsh, on his Catholic brothers and sisters, I think God will show mercy on him, because he's only going by what's in the Bible. And my God, he would go over that with a fine-tooth comb, and he really, really, had a full conviction on a lot of his stances, and he'd back it up with biblical scripture. He wouldn't just chat crap using his own biasness, he would back it up. So yeah, I mean, I don't know how the average Catholic would view this. They probably most wouldn't care too much, I don't think, because he's not that known in the Catholic world, but I'm sure he made a few Catholic enemies, and I guess they're probably concerned about his salvation. But I have no qualms that I think he's made it to the other side, and God bless his family, God bless his ministry. He's going to leave an amazing church. Obviously he's got big shoes to fill, but I'm sure he's done the groundwork and paved the way for the ministry to stay fruitful. I mean, what other Reformed Baptists have we got now that can fill his shoes? And maybe James White. Problem is, James White is a bit overly theological. He wasn't that warm father figure, was he, like you get with John MacArthur? And let's be honest, James White has made a lot more enemies than John MacArthur, across Christendom, across denominations. I think that MacArthur was definitely more polite towards other Protestants. James White, I've seen get real heat with all types of Protestants, whether that's Pentecostals, charismatics, you run-of-the-mill Baptists that aren't Reformed. I'm not going to say James White. Like I said, I think leading the way for Reformed Baptists, I still would say is Rick Warren. However, his views on women ordination split the Baptist church up right down the middle. So, but then you could argue that John MacArthur also did that, having obviously opposing views as Rick Warren on that front. So it's horses for courses, guy. But I certainly don't think Jeff Durbin is going to be there. He's a great street preacher, but he's not a scholar. Let's remember that. Jeff Durbin is not a scholar, and he's not what I would say a great preacher either, as much as he's a lovely guy. So again, I would say the giants of would be Rick Warren in the Baptist world. But hey, Baptists are well liked by everybody. I think it's if you're a good Baptist preacher, you're going to go across denominational lines. Unfortunately, a good Anglican can't cross denominational lines as well. I don't think. You can with your writings. Like, obviously, we've had great writers over the years that are Anglican. We've had N.T. Wright. We've had what's his face? Is it J.R. Tolkien? I think, yeah. I'm just trying to think of his name now, but yeah. So we've had a few, but not ones that have crossed denominational lines. But yeah, so that's it. Tell me what you think. If you had fond memories of John MacArthur, if you think that his ministry helped you with your walk to Christ. He certainly got me closer. I used a lot of his commentaries on my assignments last year, actually. Yeah, he's going to be sadly missed, guys. He's going to be sadly missed. Anyway, take care. Don't forget to hit the like, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, and also hit the notification bell, because I'm going to be doing many more of these. Take care. Bye.